shock, Shelby thought. She shouldn't be here. No mother could deal with such a sight. All 3 of her children were probably dying. Shelby spotted Judy Patterson, the ER night receptionist, who stood nearby. Judy, take her out of here." The woman obediently followed Judy, perched herself on a gurney across from the receptionist desk, and waited. It fell to Judy Patterson to comfort the young woman and try to find out what had happened. The woman's name was Elizabeth Downs, but she said she went by Diane, her middle name. The injured children were hers: Christy Ann, 8, Cheryl Lynn, 7, and Stephen Danny Downs, 3. The woman didn't know just where the shooting had occurred, but thought she could find the place again. She spoke with a certain flatness of expression, appearing to be in a shock-like state, holding her emotions in. Judy called the Springfield Police Department and repeated all the information. Diane Downs looked young, probably in her mid-20s. She was quite tan, although now the golden tan was only a thin veneer of color over chalky skin beneath. She was not pretty. Depending on the angle, she looked either plain or beautiful. She had the facial bone structure that models have, high cheekbones and an expanse of delicately rounded brow. Her green eyes dominated her face. They were huge, with brows plucked into pencil-thin lines. They had a hypnotic intensity, yet they gave no clue at all to her personality. Judy saw now that the young woman had been injured too. Beneath her shirt, Diane's left arm had been wrapped in a brightly colored beach towel. Unwrapping it, Judy found an ovoid, nasty-looking wound on the outside of Diane's arm, halfway between her wrist and elbow, as well as 2 smaller wounds. Judy wasn't a nurse, but she disinfected the wounds, wiping away the black particles around the ovoid hole. As she bandaged the arm, Judy tried to find out more about what had happened. "Where were you when the children were shot?" "We went out toward Marcola to see a friend. We were headed back, driving along Old Mohawk Road. My kids were laughing and talking, and I was laughing at something Danny said and talking to Christy. There was this man standing there in the middle of the road. He looked like he needed help. I stopped the car and got out. He wanted my keys. And then he just reached through the window and shot my kids. It's a terrible thing to be laughing one minute and then have something like this happen to you. I want to call my parents. I need to talk to them." Diane's face was a mask as she dialed the number. When someone answered, her voice exploded into the phone. "He shot the kids. He shot me, too." Just when the lives of Wes and Willadine Fredrickson seemed to be moving along with some serenity, the oldest of their 5 children, Elizabeth Diane, had moved from Arizona to be near them. It was only weeks before, and now a ringing phone in the night signaled disaster. Wes Fredrickson, the parent that Diane physically resembled, was an aesthetically handsome man in his early 50s. He was an important man in Springfield, the #1 man in the local branch of the U.S. Post Office, the postmaster himself. His face was taut and impassive as he and Willadine hurried into the hospital waiting room. Willadine Fredrickson was 46, but she looked a decade older. She seemed perpetually to be a woman who expected trouble at any moment. Willadine could not comprehend what had happened. She had seen Diane and the children only that afternoon. As always, she'd looked after Danny all day, and the girls, too, when they came home from school. Usually they stayed for supper, but she and Wes had had a meeting. Diane had picked the children up after she finished work and had taken them home for supper. Everything had been fine then. Why on earth would Diane and the children have been out in Marcola? She reached out to her daughter. "Don't worry, Diane. Honey, the children will be fine." But no one had told them that one child, Christy, had profound blood loss, heart stoppage, and needed delicate surgery, or that Danny, though stable, was at risk of paralysis, and no one had told Diane Downs that Cheryl was already dead.